Hi, my name's Jim Bailey. Do you know that Redford Union graduation rate for 2021 was 67%, about rounded up? That means that 23% of the children at Redford Union High School or Redford Union failed. That's almost a quarter of the student population. Another fact, over the past 15 years, Redford Union School District has lost about 54% of its student body. In other words, over 2,000 students. Now, the graduation rate, the number of students being lost to the schools, that's common to the school districts. There's over 500 school districts within the state of Michigan. But the surrounding school districts like South Redford Schools, Livonia, Clarenceville, you know, they're about half of what we lost, the Redford Union School District. Is that acceptable? Is it acceptable that you have a failure rate almost 25%? The answer to that is no. But the election is coming up, and I want to make sure you're aware, because you can change things. You have a vested interest in this. Some of you get Social Security. Some of you are concerned about crime. Some of you are concerned about the defense of the nation. All these things are dependent upon our next generation. And as it's going now, we're not doing good. We can do better, but you have to take an active interest. You have to vote for change in the quorum that's on the Redford Union School Board. Let me go through some of the things that you need to know as a resident of Redford Union School District and also a voter within this school district. You're paying money for this district to exist and to do its function. The problem is you're being shortchanged. You're not getting the information that you need. You're not having the opportunity to participate. According to the people in the legislature, the local school districts are supposed to be influenced by the local community. The problem is the way Redford Union School District is set up, you have under the official design, under the enabling legislation, is where the school district is governed by the school board. This is a given. The reality is you have less than a handful of people, 1, 2, 3 people, maybe a few more depending upon the decision, making the decisions. And then the school board ends up rubber stamping that with very little input. It's by design, not the design that was put in place for the government, but it was put into place through the evolution of the school board members just letting things happen and picking up a philosophy that has been termed a policy board, where they do limited participation. Now, this is an elected position. The elected position is where people actually go out and seek to be in this position. Yet, the Redford Union School District, officially, according to their bylaws, meets once a month. South Redford Schools, twice a month. Livonia, twice a month. Clarenceville, twice a month. Now, you get what you put into it. Now, Livonia, I think it is, where it's written into their bylaws and policies that the board has some standing committees. They have committees to find out what's going on within the school district. And they also have the committees in order to set policy, set things in order, whatever. Now, their superintendent can have advisory committees that he sets up. That's not what happens in Redford Union School District. Redford Union School District I did not see anything in the bylaws or policies where the superintendent can go ahead and start making up committees. Now, the school board can set up committees. They can populate those committees, and even though within an organization you want it where the superintendent can set up committees, but not the only committees. In other words, he's setting the course of events for the school board, and that is contrary to what it says within the enabling legislation for the state of Michigan, where the school board is supposed to govern the school district. Now, one of the presidents of the school board succinctly stated where the school board stands in terms of committees versus the superintendent. Let me read it to you. She said, all current and former committees of this board are advisory in nature, which means that they are appointed by the superintendent and that they serve at his request and discretion. The superintendent also populates those committees. So he's in absolute control of what goes on, what information sought, and whatever. Whereas the board remains flaccid in its approach to trying to better the school district. Now, they do things. I have to be frank with you on that. But to be able to do more, it almost seems like they try to do as least as possible. And that is to the detriment of the school board and to the school district and to the next generation. As I mentioned before, this election coming up is an opportunity for you as a voter to change that quorum and change the heading in which the school board heads. Now, I had to specifically ask, right now there's a issue before the board pushed by the administration to sell the assets of the school. Now, the preparation for this has essentially been done by the committee bypassing the school board. Information was sent out to the public back during the election talking about the selling of the property. There was never any approval by the school board to do that. He took it upon himself to do it. Now, on August 24th, there was a meeting that was set up, the Bowman School Property Disposition Committee. At the September 12th, 2022 minutes at the meeting, the regular board meeting, Mr. Witt, when he was asked, specifically stated that that committee was formed by him. It was supposed to be an advisory committee and the board serves at his pleasure and discretion. Again, he's in absolute control of what goes on. As far as just being an advisory committee, there are certain laws that occur. According to Dana Nestle's Open Meetings Handbook, there's a sentence that represents a court case. That court case was in regards to a school board or a public entity meeting with a quorum in closed session or out of a meeting in order to receive information from employees and other people of the public entity. Now, the Bowman School Property Disposition Committee meeting August 24th was receiving information from paid contractors that were hired by the school district. Yet, when you look at the happenings at that meeting, it is another example where the superintendent was using the committees to bypass the school board. The president of the school board at the meeting had mentioned that the meeting was an open meeting, public meeting, but not a public meeting. Now, a distinction is not made under the Open Meetings Act as to open meeting, which is not an open meeting.
Because it's an open meeting, but it's not an open meeting. It's not a regular meeting. It's not a school meeting.
But school board, some people on the school board and the superintendent try to bypass the school board in terms of transparency. Another case is, again, referring to Dana Nestle's Open Meetings Handbook, page 8. It mentions about a quorum being present at a committee meeting. I've tried to attend a committee meeting to find out what's going on firsthand, not filtered, at a May 10th, 2021 meeting for the Facilities Committee, and then again at the August 24th, 2022 Bowman Property Disposition Committee.
I found out.
There's 3 of the boards on the committee, so you can't participate.
Oh, yeah.
So we addressed this before. Dana Nestle, page 8 or 9 of the.
Okay, well, you can do whatever you want. We're not going to do it at this committee meeting if you're present.
As long as I don't deliberate.
No, if you're present, there's a potential for it to seem like there was deliberations. So we don't hold committee meetings with more than 3 board members present. So respectfully, I'm asking you to leave. It is an open meeting. There's other members of the public, I think, that are outside that are more than welcome to attend. But because you hold an office as a board member in this district, you can't attend.
No, you're absolutely sure.
I'm telling you, you can't attend.
Okay.
Both times I was asked to leave the meeting because they said it's a quorum. According to the Attorney General for the state of Michigan, as long as the extra party board member is not participating in disposition or the decisions, they can stay and listen. So this is another example too of the Redford Union School Board trying to usurp state law, and that's not within their prerogative to do that. In support of this pattern of behavior, I've been trying to videotape the board meetings of the Redford Union School Board, the public meetings, and by videotaping them, have them potentially available for public use. Now, I've been censured twice by the school board for videotaping. We have in the minutes where some board members have specifically said they did not want to be videotaped during a public meeting. You can't do that. The Open Meetings Act specifically says that the people, all persons, which is all, includes me as a member of the Redford Union School Board, and persons. I'm not a corporation, I'm a person. I follow the requirements to be elected as an elected official. A corporation can't be elected, but a person can be elected. So I fit under that when it says all persons who attend the meeting can videotape or broadcast or tape record the meetings. Yet, the Redford Union School Board tries to overrule state law and my right. This has been in keeping with the idea that the Redford Union School District Administration has been trying to bypass the Open Meetings Act spirit of the law, which is transparency in government. Back in 2014, I was on the Redford Parks Commission, and at that time, the Redford Township was renting the land behind Beach Elementary School for a park called Pearson Field. At that time, the contract was up for negotiation. To make a long story short, the township did not want to go along with that contract, so they went with Ashcroft. But according to the minutes, that information was never passed on to the school board. which means the facilities committee was doing the business bypassing the school board. So this has been going on for years, at least 2014, but I can guarantee you it's been going on for longer, probably decades. Another problem is the facilities committee has been working on the bond proposal, bond project, $60 million worth of development that's supposed to be taking place within the school district. Now, they've been making decisions on the designs and what's acceptable, what's going to be closed, what's going to be open, bypassing the Redford Union School Board. There was also a bond proposal steering committee that was rolled into the facilities committee. They were sending things out to the community without ever being approved by the Redford Union School Board. The problem with the facility committee and the steering committee for the bond, power was never delegated to them, which under the Open Meetings Act has to be if they're making decisions for the board. Another case, we were presented after the fact by members of the administration for what the goals were for the school district. It turns out that they came up with the idea that the standard for improvement or for achievement that they were looking for was 35% for the school district, and they were satisfied with that. Now, typically 70% is average. Beyond that, you think that you would shoot for 100%, and if you didn't get it, well, you did what you could to get 100%. But they set the standard at 35%. They sent that report or those goals into the state, the Michigan Department of Education, and they bypassed the Redford Union School Board. It was only after the fact that we were notified of what they were doing. And this is over and over and over and over again. This is not the way it needs to be. If you want local control, if you want improvement within the schools, then you don't have the same people making the same decision year after year after year after year. Again, I open this up by telling you that the graduation rate for Redford Union schools is 67%. That means the failure rate is also almost 25%. We've lost over 2,000 students, 54% or so, over the past 15 years. Again, the same people make those decisions over and over again. The school board sits over here, supposed to be in control. The reality, they're not. They don't even have a clue. And I can tell you why. I've sat there at the meetings and I've requested statistics on the third grade law. How many kids we're having failing, and I have not been given it. I've asked for attendance rates. I have not been given that information. There's multiple other things I've asked for, and that information has not been given. Why? Again, it goes along with the idea of transparency under the Open Meetings Act. If they're not being transparent with the public, they're not being transparent with the school board, there's a reason. What is the gain? What is the reason? The point is if you have 1, 2, 3 people making the decisions, I don't have to listen to the school board. I don't have to listen to the public, which clutter up the decision making. But that's not the design of the system. The school board has evolved to this point, and it's been bastardized. And the only way that has happened is because you allowed it to happen. I'm coming to you directly to tell you what the problem is so that you can correct it. You're being given an opportunity at this upcoming election to change that quorum. There was a meeting held in which a motion was put on the agenda. Again, the superintendent sets the agenda. It's supposed to be in consultation with the board president, but again, that's part of how it's built into the system. the control is narrowed down to such few people that the other board members can't have input into it. In other words, to be put on the agenda, you have to go through one individual. You go over to Livonia, and under their bylaws, 2 people on the board can request to have an item put on the agenda. That's not the case in Redford Union. Again, control. And that's important to do what they're doing, is to control. How is that control done? Well, when I came onto the school board, and I'm sure it's been going on for years prior to that, there was no calendar of events. One part of the school district didn't know what was happening in the other school district. In politics, people, there's a maxim. Whoever controls communication controls thought. If you don't know about something, you're not going to go. You're not going to participate. You're not going to have any thoughts about it. It works for control, because the information that's being given to the public, being given to the parents, being given to the school board is all controlled. Now, at the September meeting, even though it's been asked multiple times to have information posted publicly like that, finally a written calendar was provided, and they said that they would put it up on the school district calendar. I can guarantee you the only reason that occurred is because I've been telling other people in the public to look for that as an example of how information is not being passed within the school district, how it's being controlled. Another case, it came up in a board meeting where a motion, it was on the agenda, a motion was there where the school district was to set up a health advisory committee and to select a board member to sit on it. At the meeting, it was said by the superintendent that the board under state law had to do this. I specifically asked the superintendent what law that was. He couldn't say what the law was, but he would get it to me. And I never received it, but I did look it up. Under the law, the state of Michigan, for a health advisory committee, it's a code term for sex education. Now, to my recollection, there was no discussion at all at board meetings in regard to sex education within the district. So what I'm seeing here is an end run being done by the leadership team for the school district. Now, pay attention here how this is being done. Now, under the law, it specifically states that to have sex education within the school district has to set up an advisory committee. The advisory committee has to be set up by the school board. They have to select certain individuals, nurses, doctors, clergy, parents, to sit on that committee. And one of the chairs, co-chairs, has to be a parent. Now, the way it was sold to the school board was, the state dictates that we need to set this committee up and we need to select a school board member. Nowhere in the law does it say about selecting a school board member. Now, when they set that committee up, it wasn't where the board was setting it up as to who sits on that committee. The way it was presented and the way it's been done up to this point, if they've been meeting, we haven't gotten any updates or anything like that. Again, the school board's completely out of the loop on this stuff. The school board is supposed to do these things, but the way it was set in the committee and the way the motion was made, the leadership team will determine who sits on that committee, when they will meet, what subject matter they're going to have, and the committee meetings aren't announced to the public. And they're not announced to the school board. So what I'm telling you is not just a case of intentionally being opaque to the local community, the Redford Union community, but also the school board. What I'm telling you is it's set up where the school board is being manipulated with the assistance of some school board members, if not all of them, depending upon the composition for that year for the school board. What I'm telling you is that the superintendent and the administrative team for the school district are doing things beyond the view of the Redford Union School Board. And they have been getting the freedom over the years to do that. How do I know that? Because past documents have come in the form of newspaper articles. In 2015, an article was done by by a newspaper that operates as a wing of the Mackinac Center for Public Policy, and they were stating that out of the state of Michigan, the Redford Union School District was #1 in terms of what they pay their school staff, teachers. As it is now, we don't see who gets pay increases. We don't know the criteria. We don't know who gets hired in until after the fact for administrative positions. We don't know the qualifications in general of what's being asked for. It's after the fact that we find out this stuff. Now, you've probably heard about how illegal things happen in churches, where for 20 years the church secretary has been embezzling the church, and the whole philosophy is we don't need to have where 2 people see the bills or 2 people sign a check or whatever. We trust the secretary. Well, that doesn't pay off, but we're essentially doing the same thing with the school district administration. Instead of providing public oversight, which we have a responsibility through our fiduciary responsibilities as board members, they can do what they want. They hire who they want. They put them in the positions they want. They pay them what they want. And we essentially don't have a clue. It's after the fact that we realize that. In fact, we don't know how things are going with our employees. Our employees get hired and they leave, as far as I know, without an exit interview by the administration, and definitely not by the school board. But we need to do that for the simple reason that there's stuff going on that we never know about. We've had a selection, quite a list of people retiring within the past year. At one school board meeting for one group of retirees, the superintendent said that it was collectively over 300 years of experience. But we continue to hemorrhage staff, and there's a reason for that. This is odd, and this is myself observing this. I was here with the hiring of the superintendent. The superintendent was Human Resource Director for the Redford Union School District. He was in a position to determine jobs, who held what jobs, and whatever in the school district. He's in control of affecting anybody else who competed in Redford Union School District for the superintendent position. That, people, should not be allowed. That is a conflict of interest. Now, the superintendent went from human resources into the interim superintendent position. So he remained in control. Instead of hiring somebody to replace him as human resources, he maintained that position for about 2 years, a dual position of superintendent and human resources. which allowed him, which to me, my opinion, and the evidence sort of suggests that he was in a position to hire people that assisted him to get the superintendent position, people who were leadership of the unions. Now, what they ended up doing after 2 years is hiring into the human resources the former president of one of the unions who had no qualifications with human resources. This individual got a pay increase. So I have the figures from 2015, I have the figures from 2021, and without the experience over that time period, there was a pay increase in her former position, and then no doubt a pay increase to the human resources position. I don't have those figures haven't been updated, but we'll see when they do become available. Now, as this individual moved up, another individual without the experience of teaching in the classroom, whatever, took her position. So what I'm telling you is, behind the scenes, outside of our view, there's people without the certifications, without the credentials, without qualifications, holding positions. Their wages are determined by 1, 2, 3 people within the school district, and we don't have a clue. You can change that. It's who you're voting for this election that's coming up. They determine the quorum. Now, the problem with that is, I've made it available where I'm willing to show these new candidates. They don't have a clue. I can guarantee you, if you read their documentation, the things that they want to do, if you can go to the League of Women Voters voting guide, it's at Vote 411 on the internet. You can see what they write. What do they write? They want teamwork. The system's set up where you're never going to be able to do that. You don't. That's not how the board is set up. Another one says that everything's good, that they want to continue how things are going. There's almost a 25% failure rate. How can you say that? Another one says, we want to make things have family values and whatever. The school district is trying to bypass the public input actively. It's easier to make decisions and to get things done without the public being involved. It's even easy to get things done to their standards by not having the school board involved. Another example in terms of limitations, where the administration goes out of their way trying to misdirect, not provide information, things of that nature. I had asked for a copy of the budget. I heard an individual talk about petty cash, what sort of things that school could do for the kids. She had mentioned that she had limited cash, but it was available. Now, I was curious as to the amount of cash that was available, so I went and I made a request under the Freedom of Information Act. I find that under the Freedom of Information Act, it has more legal teeth than just asking somebody for something within the school district. But the problem is, even though you've got a FOIA and it's got legal teeth, they still blow you off. Or they give you information that doesn't apply. So the case is, I asked for a copy of the budget. Not the $35 million budget that we end up approving and voting on and whatever. I was looking for the line item budget so that I could see where the money was going. That request was given to a contract worker for the school district. I received a database, Excel database, with information just listed in it. Now, my experience with the line item budget that would be sent to the government body, especially the Michigan Department of Education, is not a database jumbled like that. The problem with that is it shows how the system is built in to keep things as they are. Because I went and I contacted the Michigan Department of Education and I asked for the copy of the budget that was sent to them by the Redford Union School District. Their response was they don't do that. I would have to go to the Redford Union School District to get it. Well, I already got that. I wanted to compare it against what they had sent to the state. But the state of Michigan said that they don't do that. They don't have to follow the Freedom of Information Act. The bottom line for all us people is this is a screwed up system. The thing is, in order to come up with solutions, you have to identify the problem. I've identified the problem. I've spent 16 years in public office. I've got a degree in political science, among other degrees that I have. So it's not how smart you are, it's how aware you are. This is not the way the system is supposed to be set up. The state of Michigan is throwing money at education, but there's no changes. You look at the surrounding school districts and you still have high failure rates. You look at it, people under the test scores that the state does, M-STEP, we've got less than 20% of the people meeting those requirements. We have another test that we do, the NWEA. It's a development test, sort of, where the people take the test and you can see where they fit in comparison to where they should be. Now, at a recent meeting in September or August, a presentation was provided under my request so that I could clearly see what the purpose and how the test was being done and whatever. I appreciate them doing that. They did it. But it pointed out another problem. It was said that the test started in 2015 and it was done on a yearly basis. It's only this year that they're saying that in the presentation that all of a sudden we have a eureka moment, that now the information is going to be looked at by the teachers at each of the schools, come up with solutions, how can we improve things. People, the only reason they're doing that is because a law was passed in 2021 to have them do that. We can have better, but not if the only thing that they're going to do, the administration and the staff, is if their arms are twisted. It's all in the organization. And the problem is how to change that organization. The only way is to put candidates in there for positions, candidates into the school board that aren't doing the way it's always been. Because this is the way we do it, this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way it's going to continue. Again, you have a vested interest in how the next generation turns out. If you're getting Social Security, defense of the nation, crime, whatever it is, folks, you have a vested interest. You're paying the taxes. Why are you putting up with this? My name is Jim Bailey. I'm running for re-election of the Redford Union School Board, and only you can make a difference in the future of the Redford Union School District. There's an issue that's current, but it's been an issue that's been active for 10 years. We have the Bowman School property. It was torn down, and the school district had visions of building another school, high school. Now they're at the point of selling the property. When you have a situation within an organization where you have 1, 2, 3 people making the decisions, is enough thought being put into the school district for the best results? I don't think so. That property, Bowman property, sits next to another school, which is Hilbert. It's a half a block away. In real estate, it's location, location, location. How can we have that property? Because we're never going to get it again once we dispose of it. We're never, ever going to have this opportunity to use that property to further the education within the school district. I can guarantee you there are solutions how we can improve the school district. How does that affect other things? The legislature has made education in the state a market economy. In other words, parents determine where their kids go. It's like building a better mousetrap. By having a better mousetrap, the public beats a path to the door to get that mousetrap. The same thing with education. If you have a better program, people come to you to bring your kid. Are we going to have a better program? Let me give you an example. Right now they're talking about curriculum for teaching kids allied trades. There's 3 things that they've chosen to go with at this point in time. Again, the administrative team has determined this. Again, the limited scope of ideas that they're drawing from. One of the things that they have are automotive repair, which is fine. They're spending big bucks to rehab that location. Now, the scope of that training right now is repairing internal combustion engines. I ask you folks, the government's pushing for electric vehicles, yet that's not even in the agenda or the idea of training our kids. Yet you go to some of these other school districts, they're going to be teaching internal combustion, they're going to be teaching electric vehicles. This is a market economy. You provide a better program, and the community, the public, the parents are going to beat a path to your door. You're not going to get that when 1, 2, 3 people are making those decisions. You can make a difference in this election. You can vote for a new quorum, but you have to find out where these people stand. Ask them specifically, what's the failure rate for the Redford Union School District? What's the pass rate? 67%, failure rate 24%. Ask them, how many students did we lose over the past 15 years? 2,000, over 50%, while the surrounding school district and the state of Michigan was half that. Even less on some school districts. School finances are important. That's true for any organization. If you, let us use an example, let us take a coffee cup and pour coffee into it and then poke holes into it. Now, that yearly budget slowly drains away in methods and ways that might be better saved so that the budget can be used for something functional, like for the children and whatever. But to give you an example, at one of the schools there's a telephone pole that we pay for about $200. It's either 4 times a year or 2 times a year. So on a yearly basis, we're either spending $400 or $800 renting from DTE a telephone pole. Now, over a 5-year period, that can be either $2,000 or $4,000. Do you know how many car washes the student government or the Honor Society has to conduct to get $4,000 that we're just paying DTE? Now, you might look at it and say that's just a minor figure, no big deal in a $35 million budget. But we also contract with a company
that we're paying the utilities for. And over the life of that contract, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. This is unreported income for that company. Now, I'm not sure how we got in the arrangement for paying for this, the utilities for this profit-making company. I'm not saying it is, but it's the sort of type of deal that you would do with your brother-in-law or your son or a family member. I did a Freedom of Information request for like contracts for the same company for 4 or 5 other school districts. And there's another school district that's also paying utilities, but there's also other school districts that aren't. And I was told when I raised the question that it might have something to do with getting a better deal from them. From what I saw in the contracts, it seems to be a similar deal as others. So in school finances, the idea is to better use the money that we have, use it more effectively, where it has more impact. And just draining it away by renting telephone poles or paying for the utilities of a profit-making company is not it. In another case, there's currently a desire to dispose of, the Bowman property. It's the former site of one of our elementary schools. Some of the staff consider it to be excess property. We currently have a market economy in which the parents for education, their children, they decide with their feet where the child's going to go. Now, there's no reason why a school district could not be so full of students that they're overflowing. If you have that type of program, if we keep on disposing of property and our assets that we're never, ever going to have again in terms of a possibility, what we're doing is we're sort of narrowing down our options. As we become smaller and have less flexibility in terms of the options that we're dealing with, our ability to work with the possibility of a bigger student population is ruled out. It's sort of like shooting ourselves in the foot. It's reinforcing the downward decline of a school district. We're not having, because we have a system where the management, 1, 2, 3 people are making essentially the decisions, that we're not putting the thought like we should into how best to utilize the resources that we have. The Bowman School property, which is a half block away from Hilbert, is location, location, location. How can we use that to reinforce the educational process that we have going within Redford Union School District? We need to think that out better. But that need is competing against the cha-ching that the management thinks that they can have by selling that property. It's a big mistake. Community resources are valuable. They're a secondary front to the services that we could be providing to our students. There's a wide range of organizations out there that are seeking to make contact with students, to share knowledge with them, to share services, things of that nature. Using an example of the Redford Township District Library, believe it or not, to show how we operate in a silo is the Redford Union, or the Redford Township District Library has a governing board. On that governing board are representatives from the school districts. We select a representative to sit on that school district. To the best of my knowledge, the school board hasn't had contact with that individual in an official way. Therefore, they're doing their thing over here, Redford Union's doing its thing over here, and never the twain shall they meet. It's an underutilization of community resources. We can be working with these organizations and these groups in order to support what we're trying to accomplish. In fact, people, the school year goes from June to September, or September to June. From June to September, school's out. Now, it's been proven that for some children there's a loss of learning. The Redford Township District Library has a summer reading program. If we can work with them, then what we could do is provide a year-long service in terms of reinforcing the development and the growth of our children. But we don't do it. Why? It's because it's built into the system. We don't do that because we operate as a silo, we operate within our group. We can make a change. We can do that so that we're working with these organizations that have these resources where we can apply it to the growth of our children. And it's just not the Redford Township School District, or the Redford Township District Library. There are other organizations out there that do the same thing. The Redford Little League, Soccer Club, the footballs, Eagles football. We can work with them so that we can get our children from kindergarten and before all the way up to 12th grade and beyond in a coherent type of system, training.